Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतिरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्. वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजाता सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त श्रीराधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते. तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी श्रीराधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने. नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्णा. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So welcome all devotees to today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam as part of the Bhakti Vaibhav. So today we are starting with the new chapter, chapter 16, which is entitled Maharaj Parikshit receiving the age of Kali. So to give some background on this particular chapter, we see in the previous chapter, Vidura, after enlightening Dhritarashtra and Gandhari have departed, and after that we see Arjuna bringing the unavoidable news of Lord Krishna concluding his pastimes. He bringing this news to Yudhishthir Maharaj, Kunti Devi, and all other Pandavas deciding to depart immediately, individually, not in a planned manner, but immediately as their spontaneous reaction, specifically Maharaj Yudhishthir, immediately enthroning Parikshit as the next emperor of the planet Earth and departing towards north. And all the Pandavas led by Bhimasen, Arjun, and subsequently Subhadra, Draupadi, Kunti Devi, all of them following Yudhishthir Maharaj as their lead and ultimately going back home, back to Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam specifically mentions that all these Pandavas, they are the eternal associates of the Lord. So they did reach back home, back to Godhead. So then the reason for Suta Goswami describing about Vidura enlightening Dhritarashtra and Gandhari's departure, followed by Lord Krishna's concluding the pastimes and the Pandavas' departure, has been to bring us to the point of Maharaj Parikshit accepting the responsibility as the sovereign king for the entire earthly planet. And the reason for this description, one second, make few devotees co-host. And the reason for this description is to describe the activities of Maharaj Parikshit. That was their topic of interest, and we will come to this more in detail when we come to the specific verse about the activities of Maharaj Parikshit, which is text 4 in this particular chapter. So let us recite the text first, starting with text 1. Prema Priya Mataji, just hold on for some time, please. So, 1 second. All right. Text 1, please try to recite. Okay. Prema Priya Mataji, just unmute. Hare Krishna, Dandas.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Suta Uvacha. Tata Parikshit Dijavarya Shikshaya.
Tata Parikshit Dvijavarya Shikshaya
Mahi Mahabhagavata Shashasaha.
Mahim Mahabhagavata Shashasa
Yatha hi sutyam abhijata kovidaha.
Yata hi Sutyam Abhijata Kovidaha
Samadishan Vipramahad Gunastatha.
Samadishan Translation.
Yes, translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai. Suta Goswami said, O learned Brahmanas, Maharaja Parikshit then began to rule over the world as a great devotee of the Lord under the instructions of the best of the thrice-born Brahmanas. He ruled by those great qualities which were foretold by expert astrologers at the time of his birth.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. So, purport we will start in a while. But before that, here Srimad Bhagavata mentions that whatever were the qualities that the Brahmanas had foretold. Foretold whom? Whom did the Brahmanas foretell?
Nanda Maharaja.
No. We are talking about Maharaj Parikshit. Specifically Yudhishthir Maharaj. You remember when Maharaj Parikshit was born, Yudhishthir Maharaj had several inquiries for the Brahmanas. And out of those inquiries, the specific inquiry made by Yudhishthir Maharaj about this particular child was, would he be consistent in terms of the glorious qualities that have been demonstrated by the great ancestors of Maharaj Yudhishthir? uh, Including we discussed the examples of Maharaj Puru, Maharaj Kuru, Maharaj Yayati, all these great ancestors of the Pandavas in whose dynasties Pandavas were coming. Yudhishthir Maharaj was very anxious to hear from the Brahmanas whether this child who was born of Uttara as the son of Abhimanyu, would he inherit all those glorious qualities and bring, basically continue this inheritance of being great Rajarshis, being the godly kings ruling over the kingdom. So, and in response to Yudhishthir Maharaj's this inquiry, the Brahmanas describe the glorious characteristics and qualities of this child, Maharaj Parikshit, by comparing him to various great personalities like Lord Ramachandra, King Shibi, so on and so forth. All of us remember this, Prabhuji's Matajis,
Yes, sir.
in chapter 11 end and chapter 12 beginning. So, chapter 12 describes the birth of Emperor Parikshit. So, there the Brahmanas do describe the glorious characteristics of this child, Parikshit Maharaj. So, here Sutta Goswami is now confirming that how Maharaj Parikshit did bring true all those predictions uh, of the glorious qualities that the Brahmanas had foretold Maharaj Yudhishthir by bringing those qualities in practice, in truth, in his own life. And specifically, it is mentioned similar to his grandfather, great grandfather, not in the sense of father of grandfather, but grandfathers who were great, the Pandavas, walking on the following the same footsteps as Maharaj Yudhishthir. Even Maharaj Parikshit ruled the kingdom by attending to the good advice and the counsel given by the qualified Brahmanas, like Yudhishthir Maharaj was doing. So we will see why this quality is very, very paramount and important, especially for the Kshatriyas and for all good, great administrators mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, including uh, Maharaj Prithu, Maharaj Yudhishthir, Parikshit Maharaj, Amrish Maharaj, and so many great personalities, great rulers of the world, Maharaj Priyavrat. We see all of these great Rajarshis always being guided by faculty, which is the Council of Qualified Brahmanas. And what were the qualifications of those great personalities? How it was made sure that the counsel given by them was perfect and that they were not obliged to speak what is just pleasing to the king. They were always very neutral and not obliged to king in any way. So we will see this as part of this purport. This is very important purport, and we also have a group activity coming on based on this. So we will go through the complete purport. Prema Priya Mataji, you can
Hare Krishna,
continue.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
The real qualification is to
You can read the complete purport,
okay,
Mataji.
okay, Hare Krishna. At the time of Maharaja Parikshit's birth, the expert astrologer Brahmanas foretold some of his qualities. Maharaja Parikshit developed all those qualities being a great devotee of the Lord. The real qualification is to become a devotee of the Lord, and gradually all the good qualities worthy of possession develop. Maharaja Parikshit was a Mahabhagavata, or a first-class devotee, who was not only well-versed in the science of devotion, but also able to convert others to become devotees of his transcendental instructions. Maharaja Parikshit was therefore a devotee of the first order, and thus he used to consult sages and learned brahmanas who could advise him by the Shastras how to execute the state administration. Such great kings were more responsible than modern elected executive heads because they obliged to the great authorities by following their instructions left in the Vedic literatures. There was no need for impractical fools to enact daily a new legislative bill and to conveniently alter it again and again to serve some purpose. The rules and regulations were already set forth by great sages like Manu, Yajnavalkya, Parashara, and other liberated sages. And the enactments were all suitable for all ages, in all places. Therefore, the rules and regulations were standard and without flaw or defect. Kings like Maharaja Parikshit had their council of advisors, and all the members of that council were either great sages or brahmanas of the first order. They did not accept any salary, nor had they any necessity for such salaries. The state would get the best advice without expenditure. They were themselves samadarshi, equal to everyone, both animal and man and animal. They would not advise the king to give protection to man and instruct him to kill the poor animals. Such council members were not fools or representatives to compose a fool's paradise. They were all self-realized souls, and they knew perfectly well all living beings in the state would be happy, both in this life and in the next. They were not concerned with the hedonistic philosophy of eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. They were philosophers in the real sense, and they knew well what is the mission of human life. Under all these obligations, the advisory council of the king would give correct directions, and the king or executive head, being himself a qualified devotee of the Lord, would scrutinizingly follow them for the welfare of the state. The state in the days of Maharaja Yudhishthira or Maharaja Parikshit was a welfare state in the real sense of the term, because no one was unhappy in that state, be he man or animal. Maharaja Parikshit was an ideal king for a welfare state of the world. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we see in this particular wonderful purport, the first qualification of Maharaj Parikshit is, what is it mentioned? What was his real qualification? He was a
devotee of
Bhagavata.
Yeah,
He was a Mahabhagavata.
he was a great devotee of the Lord, a Mahabhagavat devotee. Where do we see Mahabhagavat? He was the devotee of the first order. That means Uttama Adhikari. He was the first class devotee of Lord Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport makes it a point to refer to the glorious instruction of Prahlad Maharaj coming in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where the residents of the Jambudvip, they offer their prayers, where he mentions that only in a devotee of the Lord, we'll see that specific verse, only in the devotees of the Lord can all the good qualities that are worthy of possession, like those of the Suras, those of the Devatas, they can manifest. Whereas in a non-devotee, even if externally he may look very polished, very sophisticated, but where can good qualities come in a non-devotee who is always riding on a chariot of his own senses and mental speculation? So his senses keep driving him in all different directions. Therefore, no good qualities can truly manifest in a person who is not a devotee of the Lord. So this is a very famous verse, and we all should note down and also know it by heart. Even when it comes for our studies later on, that is fine. But before that also, this is a very important verse. Srila Prabhupada quotes it many number of times. Please try to recite this verse. Yasyasti bhaktir. Chama Gopika Mataji, you can recite. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yasyasti bhaktirbhagavadya kinchana.
Yasyasti bhaktirbhagavati akinchana.
सर्वैर्गुणैस्तत्र समासते सुराः. हरावभक्तस्य कुतो महद्गुणा. मनोरथेनासति धावतो बहिः.
मनोरथेनासति धावतो बहिः. So here it is mentioned, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana, that devotee of the Lord who is engaged in Akinchana Bhakti. Akinchana Bhakti means pure and adulterated unalloyed devotional service. In such a devotee, all the good qualities of the Suras, of the Devatas, they will manifest in such a devotee of the Lord. Sarvair Gunais Tatra Samasate Sura. Harava abhaktasya kuto mahatguna, and where the good qualities can manifest in a abhakta, in a non-devotee of the Lord, they cannot manifest because he is always riding the manorathena sati dhavato bahi. He is always being driven on a chariot which is driven by various horses, which are his senses and his mental speculation. So for such a abhakta, for such a non-devotee, no good qualities can be there. So we'll just read. Mother, you want to read the translation as it is?
Yes, Prabhu. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All the demigods and their exalted qualities, such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation, become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. Even if he is adept at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculations and must engage in the service of the Lord's external energy. How can there be any good qualities in such a man?
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Hare Krishna. So here we see
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, one
Hare
question.
Krishna.
I
Yes,
forgot
Prabhu.
to write. I forgot to write down the verse, Prabhuji. Can you
5,
please repeat it?
5, 18, 12. 5 dot
Fifth canto,
18
fifth
chapter,
canto, 18
18 chapter,
chapter,
12th verse.
12. Okay,
Hare Krishna. Hare
thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
So coming back to this particular topic of Maharaj Parikshit's qualification, this was his first and foremost qualification of being a Mahabhagwat devotee. As a result of he being a great devotee, all those qualities described by the Brahmanas in the beginning of chapter 12, they were coming true because of this particular quality of Maharaj Parikshit of being a first class devotee of the Lord. And we see another important quality as a result, that like his great grandfather Yudhishthir Maharaj, he was also always consulting the council of qualified Brahmanas. And we will see it as part of the group activity, classroom discussion, why these Brahmanas were special in giving good counsel, how the balance was maintained in their own autonomy versus the accountability of Maharaj Parikshit to their instructions. So this is a very, very important model using which all the great kings we see, even in case of Yudhishthir Maharaj, not only he had the council of Brahmanas, specifically he had Dhaumya Rishi as one of the principal guides to who guided Pandavas and who always accompanied Pandavas even when they were in exile and in all situations in life. We also see similar council of Brahmanas guiding Prithu Maharaj. We also see Maharaj Dasharath, the father of Lord Ramachandra, being specifically guided by Vasishta Muni as their principal priest. And when there was a danger in terms of the behavior of Maharaj Dasharath, where he wanted to take back his commitment to Vishwamitra, Vasishta Muni stopped Dasharath Maharaj and he told him the danger. If he does that, he would lose all the good credit and the merit that is there to the Raghuvamsha if he takes back his word. And he also specifically tells Dasharath Maharaj about Vishwamitra based on his own prior experience in dealing with Vishwamitra, and also reassuring Dasharath Maharaj that Vishwamitra himself is capable and fully strong enough to deal with all these demons, and he doesn't have to worry about the safety and security of his children in the care of Vishwamitra. because he can fully single-handedly defeat all these demons. Just that he is playing the role of a Brahmana, so he doesn't want to get first-hand involved in dealing with these demons, and that's why he is taking the help of the Kshatriyas. Otherwise, Maharaj Dasharatha doesn't have to worry about anything about the safety of Ramachandra and Lakshman. So similarly, we also see other great personalities always being guided by the Council of Brahmanas. So now let's come to the classroom discussion. All the devotees, let me come back to the slides. So you can go through. Yes, all the devotees can specifically refer to the purport and mention what are the specific characteristics of the Brahmanas which would enable them to be neutral and give a advice based on the scriptures. Devotees who have their answers ready can raise their hand and just mention one particular characteristics, whichever you understand, and then we will go to the other devotee, and then we will come what was that specific characteristics which made them fully autonomous to give their verdict irrespective of whether that verdict is palatable to the king or not. Okay, like say for example, there were personalities like Ravana, Kamsa, who also had their counsels, but whenever somebody used to try and give them good counsel, immediately the kings would get upset and angry. They wanted the counsel or the advice which was only palatable to them, but that was not the case in case of such great Rajarshi kings. So maybe we'll wait for a few minutes for devotees to go through the purport and be ready. Right now, there is only one hand that is raised. Can we request more devotees to participate? Not a very big long paragraph, so you can quickly go through. And don't worry, even if the answer is not correct, we will collectively drive the conclusion based on the Srila Prabhupada's purport. What were the specific characteristics of the Brahmanas? Maharaj Parikshit's Council of Brahmanas. Only two devotees, more participation. All right, so we will start with devotees who probably haven't spoken much recently. Venkata Narsimha Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Please
Krishna Prabhuji, these
unmute yourself.
sages, these
Huh.
council of ministers or council of advisors, they are great sages or brahmanas of the first order.
Yes, so that was their first qualification, that they were highly qualified. They were the Brahmanas of the first order. Thank you, Prabhuji. This is
They don't accept any salary.
yes, yes, Prabhuji. So they did not accept any salary from the king. Now, what is the result of accepting the salary or accepting any remuneration, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Who can say? What happens when we accept salary? What happens next?
Then they cannot speak truth.
True. Then we cannot be neutral. Then we become obligated. The moment a person accepts the salary or remuneration, we become obligated to give the counsel to make a decision that is favorable to the master. And this
They
is a
are
very
Samadarshi, equal to everyone.
yes, mother. So before we come to that, being Samadarshi, let's discuss about the first particular point of not accepting the salary. In earlier ages, in all the descriptions in Canto 1, we see that Kshatriyas or the state overall used to take care of the Brahmanas in such a way that their basic necessities of life, including the food, clothing, and shelter, they were well taken care of. And as a result, the Brahmanas, they were not needed to do a paid service to anyone, and they could maintain their autonomy. They could be autonomous in giving a neutral just advice to the citizens, to the kings, based on the Shastras without any obligation. And the kings also, because they were not paying the direct salary, they did not have that kind of hold or obligation on the brahmanas that they must act based on the king's desire. Like one very graphic example we can see of the brahmanas autonomy is the example of Maharaj Prithu's own father, King Vena. When his unruly rule of the kingdom became very disruptive to the administration of the kingdom in a based on the religious principles. The Brahmanas decided to take him off the throne, and they basically had him killed straightforward, not through any conspiracy. And when the kingdom became even worse, because King Vena was there, at least he was strong. After his death, the debauchees and the thieves and the robbers, they all became all the more courageous, and there was a total disruption in the kingdom. The Brahmanas immediately they churned the body of King Vena, begot King Prithu, and made him the king to take care of the kingdom. So that is the result of the autonomy. Similarly, we also see in the case of Chanakya, although he was acting as a counsel of the king, he would not take any favors beyond the basic minimum survival, beyond the basic minimum sustenance. And Srila Prabhupada often quotes him as a Brahmana who was qualified in Niti Shastra, who was qualified in the codes, moral codes, what should be done, what should not be done. And that qualification mainly came from their not being obliged to the ruler in any particular way. So the next qualification, sorry, who was the devotee who was explaining about the Brahmanas being Samadarshi? Hare Krishna. Who was the Mataji? All right. So Gunavati Jayashree Mataji, you want to unmute and mention what was the next qualification?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam.
Hare
So the second point was on the Samadarshini. They were equal to everyone. They were not like just partial, like equal to both human as well as animals. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada mentions they would not advise the king to give protection to man and instruct him to kill the poor animals. And this specific quality we will also see coming later on very prominently for the sages of Naimish Aranya. How they were very, very specific about treating all the living entities, including the animals who were also subjects of the king, and they were also that much having right to live, so that they are not, their lives are not compromised. So that was their second qualification. What was the next qualification? Rohini Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
The third qualification was they were self-realized souls. So they knew perfectly well how everybody can be happy, both in this life and the next.
Yes, so they were self-realized souls who were completely aware how the living entity should perfect their lives, how the living entities can be happy in this life and next life. And they were not mainly bothered about only the material necessities in terms of food, clothing, and shelter. They had vision beyond that. So maybe we'll request one or two devotees, and then we. Gita Pradeep Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. The one more quality is they are real philosophers in real sense. They knew well that what is mission of life and not just means restricted to eat, drink, and marry, enjoy. Not these things. They are the real philosophers.
Yes, so they were the real philosophers who basically knew the conclusion of the scriptures and not just worried about the material necessities. We also see, maybe I have not given the example here, but the neutrality of such great saintly personalities like we have seen this incident, discussed this incident earlier of Srila Prabhupada's own spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, at the Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math, which was constructed based on the help of a donation offered by a very prominent personality at that particular time. I forgot the devotee's name. I had shared it as part of the photo that I had shared during the Kartik Yatra of a silver plate where the name of the devotee is mentioned, who was the big donor to the Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math. So this particular donor devotee was one time trying to speak in a uh, in a very quiet way with Abhay Babu, Srila Prabhupada's name at that particular point in time. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur chastised both these personalities, the donor and Srila Prabhupada, Abhay Charande, Abhay Babu at that particular point in time, that he was speaking, he was giving class, and these two people were engaged in a conversation. And he asked the donor, "My dear sir, do you think that by your donation you have purchased me?" And then he chastised Abhay Babu by saying that, "Abhay, do you think that you know everything that I am speaking? And if that is the case, why don't you come here, sit, and I come and listen?" So he was very heavy. So the reason for this neutrality or autonomy was that such sadhus, they were never ever obligated to anyone, including for their donation, etc., or material support in any way. And because of that autonomy, they could express their views solely based on the Shastras without feeling obligated or pressurized in any manner. And we also see, not related to this, but one of the main means that was adopted by the Britishers to destroy the autonomy of the different monarchs who were existing in different parts of India was to, they started basically, they kept the monarch busy with the women, wine, and all other enjoyment, and giving them salary, and thus making them totally dependent and obligated on the British rule. And thus the monarch, they were the kings only for the namesake of their respective province. They had no material influence in day-to-day running of the kingdom because of being obligated to the British rule by accepting money from them on a monthly basis. So this way we see what was the method that was used earlier for the autonomy of the council. Then we proceed. Any devotees have any other points to share? Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Hare Krishna. And the conclusion of the purport is very important. Srila Prabhupada states that because of King Parikshit running the administration of the kingdom in such an ideal way, all the citizens, all the subjects were very happy, including the men and the animal, because the king was so caring and he truly brought in truth the qualities he was compared to by the Brahmanas, including comparison to Maharaj Shivi, Lord Ramachandra, etc. He used to rule the kingdom exactly as a loving father. So first verse talked about the rule of Maharaj Parikshit in terms of being guided by the Brahmanas. Second verse talks about his marriage. So we won't recite all the verses so that we are able to give time to this important point. Any devotees wants to read through Prabhuji's Mataji's Hare Krishna? Ishwari Murari Priya Mataji Jagadananda Prabhu Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Uttarasya tanayam
Uttarasya tanayam
upayema iravatim
Upayemahiravatim
janame jayadim's chaturas
Janamedayadim's chaturas
tasyam utpadayat sutam
Tasyam utpadayat sutam. Translation? Yeah.
King Parikshit married the daughter of King Uttara and begot 4 sons, headed by Maharaja Janamejaya.
Yes. So before we go through the purport, because purport is bit long, we will discuss rather than reading the purport. So it seems, and that is based on the translation, it seems that Maharaj Parikshit's mother, who was named Uttara, and Maharaj Parikshit's maternal uncle, he was also named as Uttara. It seems like that, although it is not mentioned anywhere. But it is mentioned that his maternal uncle was Uttara, and Parikshit Maharaj, basically married his maternal cousin, who was the daughter of King Uttara, named Iravati. Iravati, sorry. Iravati. And Maharaj Parikshit begot 4 sons, Janamejay, and other names are mentioned, Shruta Ugrasen, and Bhimasen too. These were the sons of Maharaj Parikshit. And Prabhupada explains in the purport that in that particular time, it was allowed to marry one's cousin sister provided the Gotra is different. That means, and Prabhupada gives the example, like even Arjuna married Subhadra, who was his maternal cousin sister. So Subhadra was the daughter of Vasudev, who was the maternal uncle of Arjuna. So as long as the Gotra is not matching, when the Gotra is matching, the boy and the girl, they were considered brother and sister. And even in today's day and age, there are some social orders within the Varnashram system where the first cousin's marriage is approved, provided the Gotra is different. Although the modern science has its reservations about such marriages in the modern times, where it can lead to genetic defects in the children if the close family members, the cousins, are married. But that practice was allowed earlier on. And then about Maharaj Janameja is mentioned. So this is bit of a detour from the flow where Maharaj Janameja's activities after the departure of Parikshit Maharaj are mentioned, like how he performed the great Sarpa Yagya, where he basically wanted to avenge the death of his father from the fatal bite of snake Takshaka. So he conducted a great Sarpa Yagya where he had the council of Brahmanas call the serpents from all over the earth, and they were being pulled into the sacrificial fire. But here as well, we see on the request from very many influential demigods and the sages, and specifically we also read in Mahabharata about Lord Brahma instructing Janamejaya to stop the Sarpayagya. On the request of many influential personalities and the sages, Maharaj Janamejaya changed his decision to kill the race of snakes. So he stopped the Sarpayagya in between, and still he satisfied all the authorities who were supposed to partake of their offerings by providing them those offerings. And because that sacrifice was stopped on the instruction of the great authorities like Lord Brahma, Janamejaya could still satisfy everyone. So we proceed. You can read this purport at your leisure. If there are any queries, we can take later. We'll proceed to text number 3. Any devotee, Devika Shetty Mataji, you have any query or you want to recite?
I want to recite.
Sorry, Mataji.
I want to recite.
Recite. Okay, fine.
Yeah, shloka number 3. Ajahara Ashwamedantrini.
Ajahara Ashwamedantrini.
Gangayam Bhuri Dakshinan.
Gangayam Bhuri Dakshinan.
Sharadvatvam Gurum Krutva.
Sharadvatvam Gurum Krutva.
Deva Yatrikshi Gocharaha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Maharaj Parikshit, after having selected Krupacharya for guidance as his spiritual master, performed 3-hour sacrifice on the banks of the Ganges. These were executed with sufficient rewards for the attendants, and at these sacrifice, even the common man could see demigods. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the purport is important. Maybe Mataji go through the complete purport.
Okay. Purport. It appears from this verse that interplanetary travel by the denizens of higher planets is easy. In many statements in Bhagavatam, we have observed that the demigods from heaven used to visit this earth to attain sacrifices performed by influential kings and emperors. Herein also we find that during the time of the horse sacrifice ceremony of Maharaja Parikshit, the demigods from other planets were visible even to the common man. Due to the sacrificial ceremony, the demigods are not generally visible to common men as the Lord is not visible. But as the Lord by his causeless mercy descendants to the visible to the common man, similarly the demigods also become visible to the common man by their own grace. Although celestial beings are not visible to the naked eyes of the inhabitants of this earth, it was due to the influential of Maharaja Parikshit that the demigods also agreed to be visible. The kings used to spend lavishly during such sacrifices as a cloud distributes rains. A cloud is nothing but another form of water, or in other words, the waters of the earth transform into clouds. Similarly, the charity made by the kings in such sacrifices was but another form of the taxes collected from the citizens. But as the rains fall down very lavishly and appears to be more than necessary, the charity made by such kings also seem to be more than what the citizen needs. Satisfied citizens will never organize hesitation against the kings, and thus there was no need in changing the monarchical state. Even for a king like Maharaja Parikshit, there was need of a spiritual master for guidance. Without such guidance, one cannot make progress in spiritual life. The spiritual master must be bona fide, and one who wants to have self-realization must approach and take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master to achieve real success. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. 1 second. Yes. So here we see Maharaj Parikshit at that particular point in time, he performed 3 horse sacrifices, Ashwamedh Yagyas. And we see even his grandfather, Maharaj Yudhishthir, also performed 3 Ashwamedh Yagyas. And Srimad Bhagavatam mentions that these yagyas were performed solely for the welfare of the kingdom, and these yagyas, specifically for Yudhishthir Maharaj, it mentions that Yudhishthir Maharaj became more famous than even the king of the heavenly planets, King Indra, who has to hit his credit 100 Ashwamedh yagyas. Still, Yudhishthir Maharaj was more famous. So, as part of the activities that are forbidden for Kali Yuga, this is one of the first activity that is not allowed in Kali Yuga, that is performance of such yagyas as Ashwamedh yagya or Gomedh yagya. And one of the reasons that is mentioned is there were qualified priests available at that particular point in time who could make sure that these horses offered in the Ashwamedh Yagya or the cow offered in the Gomedh Yagya, they would immediately get their next birth in the higher human form of life immediately. We don't have those levels of qualified brahmanas available in Kali Yuga. Therefore, these yagyas are not allowed. So these are one of the forbidden activities in this age. But Maharaj Parikshit, because he was such a qualified king, even the devatas who are not obligated to make themselves visible in front of a common man, similar to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even they were visible because of the great qualification of King Parikshit. Otherwise, it is not possible for the common man to have their darshan. And it is also mentioned how these kings were so generous, so liberal in spending and giving charities during such yagyas that they are compared to the cloud. When the cloud pours rain, it is very liberal, it is very generous. It doesn't discriminate between an area where it should pour rain and an area where it should not. It pours rain uniformly across generous quantity of water. Similarly, these kings, that charity would ultimately come from the taxes which the kings used to extract from the kingdom. But the charity was made so generously that all the citizens would feel satisfied. Nobody was in any want. And as a result, the citizens would never rebel or agitate against such Rajarshi kings. And there was, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, thus there was no need of changing the monarchical state as long as the king was qualified to that level. And this is a very important point that we discussed a while ago, importance of taking guidance from one's spiritual preceptors, spiritual teachers. 1 second, let me see if I have prepared a slide for this. Yes. So we see that even in the earlier times, all the great kings, they always used to have their own spiritual master. And Srila Prabhupada mentions, not in this purport, but in many places, like even Lord Ramachandra, he had accepted spiritual master in the form of Vishwamitra, or Lord Krishna himself accepted spiritual master in the form of spiritual teacher in the form of Sandipani Muni. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he accepted Ishwara Puri, and all these great personalities, including Pandavas, Maharaj Parikshit, they show us through their own example, not just accepting a spiritual master, but very important point in taking a regular guidance from one's spiritual preceptors, one's spiritual teacher. Now, this is a very important point for all of us, that all our different spiritual masters, they have their specific moods, and it is the responsibility of the student, of the disciple, to understand the mood of our spiritual master and make sure to access his instructions, to get access to his instructions and guidance in the way they desire. Like, say, for example, I'll give you some positive examples from our own movement of great personalities who have tremendous responsibilities on their shoulders, but still how much effort they put to give a dedicated time in a year to associate with their spiritual masters, get their association and guidance. Like all of you might have heard about a great sannyasi in our movement, His Holiness Bhakti Brahad Bhagwat Swami Maharaj, who was before the sannyasa initiation, he was known as Brahad Mridanga Prabhu. So Bhakti Brahad Bhagwat Swami Maharaj, he leads Bhaktivedanta College in Durban, South Africa, and basically he is a worldwide preacher, lot of responsibilities on his shoulder, and Maharaj is very famous for his scholarly presentations and giving of seminars like Vaishnava Sadachar, so on and so forth. Even Bhakti Shastri course in Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education, Maharaj is one of the very prominent teachers who gives his association there. But such a great personality who has got so many preaching responsibilities, administrative responsibilities on their shoulder, on his shoulder, Maharaj makes it a point to reserve around say a fortnight in a year to go and stay with his own spiritual master, His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, and take his association, take his instruction. So one can say that I can listen uh, to the lectures of my spiritual master, which is definitely good, which we should definitely do. But while the Vapu association is also available, when the physical association is available, one should definitely make an effort to dedicatedly get some time to hear from one spiritual master in person while he is still available on this earthly planet. So similarly, like many of you devotees are disciples of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. So all of you should know the mood of the spiritual master. What does Srila Jayapataka Swami Maharaj want from his disciple, expect from his disciples. Like say, typically there are two occasions when Maharaj does like his disciples to come to Mayapur. And I'm not saying that it must be done by everyone irrespective of their constraints, because everybody's constraints are different. But Maharaj does like devotees, like his disciples, to visit Mayapur during the Gaur Purnima festival, or specifically during the Vyasa Puja ceremony festival of Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, where these spiritual masters, they keep their time reserved for their disciples so that they can guide them and give them their sangha and empower them so that the service can go on for the throughout year. Similarly, recently I attended Mayapur Kartik Yatra to get the association of my spiritual master, because he does keep that particular time of the year, those 1 week period, those 7 days, specifically for the disciples, to where he is exclusively available to give his association through classes, and whatever he wants to convey to the devotees in terms of their spiritual life, how it should be conducted, Maharaj does speak as part of his classes. So it is very important for the devotees, when the spiritual master is physically available on the earth, to seek his dedicated time, not just exclusively for us, but whenever he is available for the disciples, and get that association, not take it very lightly. It is very, very important. And we see here, even these great Rajarshi devotees like Maharaj Parikshit, they also showing it through their own practical example. Is there any comment, question, thoughts, queries, Prabhuji's, Mataji's on this particular point of understanding the mood of our spiritual master? What does he expect from the disciples? And to dedicatedly, exclusively making a regular effort at least once a year. Once a year doesn't mean that remaining 11 months and half, 11 and a half months, we lead our life the way we want. A disciple must be always be guided by the mood and instructions of his spiritual master. But whenever he is exclusively making his association available, we should not miss it. We should make every effort to go and take that association. Any questions anybody has, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, on this particular point before we proceed? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Divya Rukmini Mataji.
Prabhu, just one more time, that Maharajas, Brihat Bhagavad Maharajas, who is the spiritual master, Prabhu?
His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Giriraj Swami Maharaj.
Yeah.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So specifically, I gave this example because many of us may give excuse that, Prabhu, I have so many responsibilities, family responsibilities, job responsibilities, because of which it is very difficult to take out reserve dedicated time. But my suggestion through this example, if such a busy personality can take out dedicated 2 weeks time to be with the spiritual master, hear from him, why can't all of us? We should definitely. And for the remainder of the period, then we can regularly hear from our spiritual master, note down his instructions, and try to bring those instructions in our practice. And there are n number of references available in the scriptures of the sure short way to perfect our life is to follow the instructions of our spiritual master. That is the sure short way to please Lord Krishna. So we should not take lightly the association that is available of our spiritual master. And there are exceptional circumstances, like say for example, Srila Prabhupada, he gave initiation to some of the devotees remotely because it was not physically feasible for those devotees to travel because of n number of constraints. But what is important is how dedicated those devotees are to the mood and mission of their spiritual master. Like I'll give one more example. There is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada preaching in the very difficult region in Ukraine. His Holiness Niranjan Swami Maharaj. He is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada gave initiation to Niranjan Swami Maharaj, if I am not wrong, through letter by granting him spiritual name and accepting him as his disciples. because of some constraints that were existing at that particular point in time. And subsequently, Srila Prabhupada left the planet, and it was not possible for Niranjan Swami Maharaj to get physical association, Vapu association of his spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. But because of his dedication, purity, and dedication to the spiritual master's mission, he is such an amazing devotee who has transformed the lives of hundreds and thousands of devotees in Ukraine. And even now, with such difficult circumstances, he and the devotees are still making sure that devotees are taken care as nicely as possible. He has not left the Ukraine region, although being a US citizen. So the point is, or somebody like, say, for example, His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj, who came to the moment and became Srila Prabhupada's disciple at the fag end of Srila Prabhupada's life. I don't recollect the exact date, but Maharaj came to International Society for Krishna Consciousness around 1976. So hardly a year before Srila Prabhupada's departure. But see how nicely they are taking forward the mood and mission of their spiritual master. So Vani association is definitely more important, but while the Vapu association is available, we should make every effort to leverage on it, not to miss it. Hare Krishna. Any other devotees have any questions, comments, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? If not, we proceed. Hare Krishna. All right, let us proceed. Yeah, so who is your spiritual master? So I have taken initiation from His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. So recent Mayapur Kartik Yatra, I had gone for the same purpose. So text 4, any devotee wants to recite Usha Kamat Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Text 4. Nijagrahau jasaviraha.
Nijagrahau jasaviraha.
Kalim digvijaye kvachita.
Kalim digvijaye kvachita.
Nripalingadharam shudram.
Nripalingadharam shudram.
Nantam gomithunam pada.
Nantam gomithunam pada. Translation?
Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Once, when Maharaj Parikshit was on his way to conquer the world, he saw the master of Kali Yuga, who was lower than a Shudra, disguised as a king and hurting the legs of a cow and a bull. The king at once caught hold of him to deal sufficient punishment.
Purport? You can read the complete purport.
Yes, Prabhuji. The purpose of a king's going out to conquer the world is not for self-aggrandizement. Maharaj Parikshit went out to conquer the world after his ascendance to the throne, but this was not for the purpose of aggression on other states. He was the emperor of the world, and all small states were already under his regime. His purpose in going out was to see how things were going on in terms of the godly state. The king, being the representative of the Lord, has to execute the will of the Lord duly. There is no question of self-aggrandizement. Thus, as soon as Maharaj Parikshit saw that a lower class man in the dress of a king was hurting the legs of a cow and a bull, at once he arrested and punished him. The king cannot tolerate insults to the most important animal, the cow, nor can he tolerate disrespect for the most important man, the Brahmana. Human civilization means to advance the cause of Brahmanical culture and to maintain it. Cow protection is essential. There is a miracle in milk, for it contains all the necessary vitamins to sustain human physiological conditions for higher achievements. Brahmanical culture can advance only when a man is educated to develop the quality of goodness. And for this, there is a prime necessity of food prepared with milk, fruits, and grains. Maharaj Parikshit was astonished to see that a black Shudra dressed like a ruler, was mistreating a cow, the most important animal in human society. The age of Kali means mismanagement and quarrel. And the root cause of all mismanagement and quarrel is that worthless men with the modes of lower class men who have no higher ambition in life come to the helm of the state management. Such men at the post of a king are sure to first hurt the cow and the Brahminical culture, thereby pushing all society towards hell. Maharaj Parikshit, trained as he was, got the scent of this root cause of all quarrel in the world. Thus, he wanted to stop it in the very beginning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here we see that Maharaj Parikshit, the earlier chapter describes how all the kings after the departure of Yudhishthir and all the Pandavas, when Parikshit Maharaj was enthroned as the king, all the kings, similar to the grandfather of Maharaj Parikshit, Maharaj Yudhishthir, they were agreeable, they were happily agreeing for subjugation under Maharaj Parikshit as the sovereign king of the entire world. So it was not required for Maharaj Parikshit to go out in order to get newer places or newer kingdoms under his subjugation. That was already agreed by the subjugation accepted by all the kings on the earthly planet at that particular point in time. But why he was still going around his kingdom? He wanted to see how the people in his kingdom, how everything was going on, how they were conducting themselves, how the civilization, whether it was progressing based on the godly civilization way, based on uh, the way he wanted to run his kingdom based on the Shastric principle, or was there any discrepancy? And surprisingly, to the astonishment of Maharaj Parikshit, he did find a major discrepancy in front of his eyes in the form of a Shudra man. Shudra man means not because of the birth, but because of his qualities and activities. So, such a Shudra person, a lower class man, because of his activity, what he was doing, he hurting the legs of a cow and the bull. And we will see in a while what does this cow represent and what does the bull represent. And Maharaj Parikshit, when he was astonished in that particular manner, he immediately wanted to punish this offender, the Kali, in the form of a lower class Shudra man. And specifically, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that a civilized society means two things must be there. One is the respect to the Brahmana class, and second is protection to the animals, especially the cow. And a noble king, a virtuous king, can never tolerate insult or injustice to these two classes, namely the cows and the brahmanas, who are very important in Vedic civilization for the prosperity of the entire kingdom. So as soon as Parikshit Maharaj saw this cow and the bull being attacked, being hurt by this low class Shudra, he wanted to punish. And Srila Prabhupada also mentions that for the Brahmana culture to flourish, Brahmanical culture can advance only when a man is educated to develop the quality of goodness. And for this, there is a prime necessity of food prepared with milk, fruits, and grains. Specifically, Srila Prabhupada glorifies milk as a food, which has all the necessary qualities for the physiological development of human body, especially the fine tissues of the brain, which are required for spiritual advancement. So if we want to have right thoughts, right way of thinking, right priorities in our life, we need to consume the food which is in the mode of goodness based on the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. And one of the important ingredients of the food prepared in mode of goodness are milk, fruits, grains, etc. Specifically milk, which is totally dependent on cows. If cows are not there, then we cannot get good quality milk. And if milk is not there, then we are losing out on a very important ingredient needed for our spiritual advancement. So one particular point that comes out in this verse, if you see, let me just go back to, we see the flow of discussion in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1. We started off with the 6 questions by the sages of Naimisharanya and the answers to these 6 questions given very briefly to the point by Suta Goswami. So these 6 questions and the answers are covered in the 3 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1. So in the 3rd chapter, after the first 6 primary questions are answered by Suta Goswami, supplementary questions are asked by the sages of Naimisharanya, specifically asking about the history of Srimad Bhagavatam. How did Srimad Bhagavatam come about? How did Vyasadeva feel inspired to compose Srimad Bhagavatam, about its speaker, namely the Shukadev Goswami, and about the primary hearer of Srimad Bhagavatam, specifically Maharaj Parikshit. And about Maharaj Parikshit, they wanted to hear about his birth and activities. Now, in order to answer all these questions, we see Suta Goswami, he explaining the answer to the first question about the history of Srimad Bhagavatam in chapter 4, 5 and chapter 6 and part of chapter 7 till text 11. We see the history of Srimad Bhagavatam being described by Suta Goswami, including the background of the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadev Goswami, his characteristics, etc. And then Suta Goswami comes to the last part of the questions in terms of the activities of Maharaj Parikshit. But in order to come to the point of activities of Maharaj Parikshit, Suta Goswami describes the event leading to the birth of Maharaj Parikshit. Unless Parikshit Maharaj is born, how do you describe his activities? So in order to come to the birth of Parikshit Maharaj, he describes the background in terms of Ashwatthama trying to please Duryodhana by killing the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi, and subsequently he being punished, he attacking the child within the womb of Uttara, Maharaj Parikshit. And then he takes a detour. He takes a detour by describing how when the child within the womb of Uttara was pleased, Kunti, and when Krishna was just about to depart at that particular point in time, Kunti Devi offered beautiful prayers, then lamentation of Yudhishthir Maharaj, then Krishna pacifying Yudhishthir Maharaj, taking the Pandavas led by Yudhishthir Maharaj to Bhishmadev to be guided, to be instructed by Bhishmadev in pacifying them and in explaining the ideal duty as a Kshatriya, how they should rule the kingdom. So Suta Goswami discusses that, and then about departure of Lord Krishna from Hastinapur, entrance into Dwaraka. Then the Shaunakadi Rishis, they get Suta Goswami come back to the main question, which was the birth of Maharaj Parikshit. And because he had taken a detour, and then Suta Goswami describes Parikshit Maharaj's birth, his qualities, bringing up to the level where Parikshit Maharaj is enthroned as the sovereign king of the entire earthly planet. And in order to come to that point, he discusses about Vidura visiting Dhritarashtra, instructing him in renunciation, Dhritarashtra quitting, Krishna concluding his pastimes and leaving the earth to go back to his spiritual abode, and Pandavas departing to the north, retiring in a timely manner. And now Parikshit Maharaj is finally enthroned as the sovereign king of the entire earthly planet, for Suta Goswami to answer that final question of the sages of Naimisharanya, which is about the activities of Maharaj Parikshit. And amongst these activities, specific activity that is very important is the chastisement given by Parikshit Maharaj to Kali. But when it comes to answering this particular answering this particular question, we see Suta Goswami describing the activities of Maharaj Parikshit in terms of chastising Kali Purusha in one particular verse, one verse itself. So the sages are intrigued by this particular answer for few reasons. One reason is they could not simply anticipate the response by Parikshit Maharaj just in terms of chastising the king. Why? Because the Kali Purusha, the low class Shudra person, Kali Purusha, was acting in such a ghastly way by cutting off the legs of the cow and the bull. According to them, the just and simple, straightforward punishment should have been beheading the Kali Purusha by Parikshit Maharaj and making sure that he receives the just punishment. But they were intrigued. Why did Parikshit Maharaj simply decided to punish him and not kill him? Why was Kali Purusha not awarded capital punishment? And second is, how come Suta Goswami answer this particular question on the activities of Parikshit Maharaj, which they wanted to hear as part of their flow in such a brief manner? They wanted to know more. And thus, in the subsequent verse, which is text 5, we see Shaunakadi Rishi further inquiring about this intrigue of theirs. Why did Parikshit Maharaj leave Kali Purusha alive? Why did he not kill him immediately? So we will see this question. Any query, question, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, based on what we discussed till now? The flow part. Why? How do we come here? And what was going on between Shaunakadi Rishi and Suta Goswami to come up to this point? Any questions do we have? Hare Krishna. Is it all clear? Confusion? Everybody is very quiet. All right. Divya Rukmini Mataji, please unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shaunaka uvacha. Kasya hedo nijagraha. Kalim digvijaye nrupa. Nradeva chinna dhrik shudra. Kosau gamya padahanad. Tatkadyada mahabhaga. Yadi Krishna kadashrayam.
Translation.
Shaunaka Rishi inquired, why did Maharaj, one second, Prabhu, it's not clear for me. Shaunaka Rishi inquired, why did Maharaja Parishit simply punish him since he was the lowest of the Shudras, having dressed as a king and having stuck a cow on the leg? Please describe all these incidents if they related to the topic of Lord Krishna.
Yes. Thank you, Manoj. So before we go through the purport, hurting a cow was that much intolerable to the sages of Naimisharanya. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that they could never envision a society in which a cow is killed. And what to speak of cow being killed in an organized manner in the form of slaughterhouses, etc. So it was totally inconceivable to the sages of Naimisharanya. One cow was hurt and they felt the just punishment should have been capital punishment for the Kali Purusha. Why did Parikshit Maharaj not give capital punishment to the Kali Purusha? Why did he simply punish him? And please describe all this. If so, they, like Srila Prabhupada also mentions in the purport, that they were not at all interested in hearing about this low class sinful personality Kali Purusha, if the answer is not related to glorification of Lord Krishna in any way. So they are specifically telling Suta Goswami to answer their question only if the answer relates to glorification of Lord Krishna. Otherwise, we will simply leave it out. So that is very, very important to understand the mood of Shaunakadi Rishis. Dibi Rukmini Mataji, please go ahead with the purport.
Hare Krishna. Shaunaka and the rishis were astonished to hear that the pious Maharaj Parishit simply punished the culprit and did not kill him. This suggests that a pious king like Maharaja Parishit should have at once killed an offender who wanted to cheat the public by dressing like a king and at the same time daring to insult the purest of the animals, a cow. The rishis in those days, however, could not even imagine that in the advanced days of the age of Kali, the lowest of the Shudras will be elected as administrators and will open organized slaughterhouses for killing cows. Anyway, although hearing about a Sudraga who was a cheat and insulter of a cow was not very interesting to the great rishis, they nevertheless wanted to hear about it to see if the event had any connection with the Lord Krishna. They were simply interested in the topics of the Lord Krishna, for anything that is devoted with the narration of Krishna is worth hearing. There are many topics in the Bhagavatam about sociology, politics, economics, cultural affairs, etc. But all of them are in relation with Krishna, and therefore all of them are worth hearing. Krishna is the purifying ingredient in all matters, regardless of what they are. In the mundane world, everything is impure due to its being a product of the three mundane qualities. The purifying agent, however, is Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madhuri. So the sages of Naimisharanya, they were very clear that they wanted to know about details of any of their queries that Suta Goswami was to answer only if those details related to glorification of Lord Krishna. Otherwise, they were not at all interested in hearing about Kali Purusha. Otherwise, if it does not lead to topics about Lord Krishna. So this is a very important verse and point, how one should only focus his attention on those discussions which are about the topics of Lord Krishna. And this verse and the next verse are linked together. So maybe we will go through text 6 and then we come to the discussion on the details. Gita Pradeep Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Atha vasya padam bhoja.
Atha vasya padam bhoja.
Makarandaliham satam.
Makarandaliham satam.
Kim anyer sad alape.
Kim anyer asad alape.
Ayusho yada sadvayaha.
Ayusho yada. Translation.
Translation. The devotees of the Lord are accustomed to licking up the honey available from the lotus feet of the Lord. What is the use of topics which simply waste one's valuable life?
Thank you, Manash. So before we go through the purport, this particular verse, the Shaunakadi Rishis are saying, Atha vasya padam boja makaranda liham satam. Makaranda means the honey. So the honey, the nectar which drips down, which comes from the lotus feet, padam boja, lotus feet of Lord Krishna, the devotees of the Lord, they are constantly busy accepting it, relishing it, the honey coming from the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Kim anyer asat alapair. And asat alapair, they are, where is this particular word in the, yeah, alapair means the different topics. Asat, asats means that are not good, that are illusory. Devotees are not concerned with any topics that are not related to Lord Krishna, because what does discussion on these topics that are not related to Lord Krishna lead to? It leads to Ayusho Yat Asat Vyaha. It leads to wastage of our human form of life. It leads to wastage of the time, the facility that has been granted to us in the human form of life. If we take interest and engage in discussing about topics that are asat alapayar, that are illusory and not related to Lord Krishna. So we'll see how nice purport is. Please continue, Gita Mataji.
Lord Krishna and his devotees are both on the transcendental plane. Therefore, the topics of Lord Krishna and of his pure devotees are equally good. The battle of Kurukshetra is full of politics and diplomacy, but because the topics are related with Lord Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita is therefore adored all over the world. There is no need to eradicate politics, economics, sociology, etc., which are mundane to the mundaners. To a pure devotee who is actually related with the Lord, such mundane things are transcendental if detailed with the Lord or with his pure devotees. We have heard and talked about the activities of the Pandavas, and we now are dealing with the topic of Maharaja Parikshit. But because of all these topics are related to the Lord Sri Krishna, they are all transcendental, and pure devotees have great interest in hearing them. We have already discussed this matter in connection with the prayers of Bhishma Deva. Our duration of life is not very long, and there is no certainty of when we shall be ordered to leave everything for the next stage. Thus, it is our duty to see that not a moment of our life is wasted in topics which are not related with Lord Krishna. Any topic, however pleasant, is not worth hearing if it is devoid of its relation to Krishna. The spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavana, the eternal abode of Lord Krishna, is shaped like the whole of a lotus flower. Even when the Lord descends to any one of the mundane planets, he does so by manifesting his own abode as it is. Thus, his feet remain always on the same big hole of the lotus flower. His feet are also as beautiful as the lotus flower. Therefore, it is said that Lord Krishna has lotus feet. Those who want to live forever without changing their material bodies should not waste valuable time with topics other than those relating to Lord Krishna and his devotees. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here, the Chaunakadi Rishi, they are basically explaining how the devotees are interested in any topics, provided there is a connection to Lord Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada explains how Mahabharata, if we see, Mahabharata was already composed by Srila Vyasadeva when Vyasadeva expressed his despondency to his spiritual master Narada Muni, even after composing Mahabharata, because it has many topics mainly related to the politics, economics, sociology, etc. And along with those topics, the pure devotional service of Lord Krishna was also described in few sections. But it was not an out and out glorification of the pure devotional service to Lord Krishna. So here, Mahabharata and all such literatures, which also have these different topics, politics, economics, sociology, they are glorified because all these different topics ultimately lead to devotion to Lord Krishna. So both contexts we have to understand why Vyasadeva was still despondent even after composing Mahabharata, but at the same time, why these topics are mentioned by such a great personality like Vyasadeva, because ultimately they lead to Krishna. And devotees still take interest in these topics, provided Krishna Katha is there. They ultimately lead to devotional service to Lord Krishna. And otherwise, if we don't refer to such discussions, then Srimad Bhagavatam mentions that our Ayusha, our life, is asat vyayaha. It is basically spent for something which is not worthwhile. Like say for example, if we are paying for a particular commodity, for a particular thing, which is not really working, which is not that much worthwhile, then spending for such a expensive thing is considered as useless. It is considered as worthless. Similarly, if we spend our life for discussing any of these topics, sociology, politics, economics, so on and so forth, which ultimately does not lead to Krishna, then spending of such a life is also called in Bhagavatam as asat vyaha. Vyaya means expenditure, spending, and asat means spending for something which is not worthwhile, which is not worthwhile spending. So there are a few verses which will go to the slides now. So in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we see Lord Brahma describing the spiritual world, describing the beauty of the spiritual world, and just after describing the description, the beautiful description of the spiritual world, this particular verse comes where maybe we'll recite this verse. Any devotee would like to recite in proper meter? Shama Gopika Mataji, you want to try?
Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yanna vrajanti agavido rachananuvadash.
यन्नाव्रजन्ति अगविदो रचनानवादात्
शृण्वन्ति ये अन्यविषया कथामतीग्निः
शृण्वन्ति अन्यविषया
कथामतीग्नि
यास्तु श्रुता हतभगैर्ऋभिरात्तसारास्
यस्तु श्रुता
स्थान् क्षिपन्ति अशरणेषु तमः सुहन्त Translation. It is very much regrettable that unfortunate people do not discuss the description of the Vaikuntha planets, but engage in the topics which are unworthy to hear and which bewilder one's intelligence. Those who give up the topics of Vaikuntha and take to the talk of material world are thrown into the darkest region of ignorance. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:15-23.
Thank you, Mataji. So here Lord Brahma is saying, Shunvanti, the importance, the significance of hearing what we hear, attending to what we hear. Those who hear Anya Vishaya, everything apart from Lord Krishna, everything that does not lead to discussion about Krishna is mentioned by Brahmaji as Anya Vishaya, that means other topics. And he calls them Kukatha Matigni. Kukatha, that means there is a Harikatha, discussion about Krishna, and Kukatha, that means which will do more harm to us than any benefit. And why does it do harm to us? Because it causes matigni, it causes bewilderment of one's intelligence if those topics are not related to Krishna. Yastu Shuta Hata Bhagair Rubir Attasaras. And such discussion of Kukatha on Anya Vishaya, on discussions which are not related to Lord Krishna, then these type of people, they get pushed into Tamastan Kshipanti Asharaneshu Tamasut Hanta. Such people get pushed into the darkest region of ignorance. Tama means darkness. So such people, and there are also many other verses in Srimad Bhagavatam. There is also this famous verse 10:1-4. If I'm not wrong, let's try to open it. Where Sukadeva Goswami mentions that who would not take pleasure in discussing about Lord Krishna than a person which is Pashugnath, who is the killer of the soul. So here Srila Prabhupada mentions who is killing his own self. One is a butcher or killing his own self. Only such a person will not take interest in hearing about Krishna. Everybody else who is not wanting to kill oneself, who doesn't want to commit spiritual suicide, would definitely take pleasure, take interest in discussing about Lord Krishna. This is also a very famous verse. Who can discuss about Lord Krishna? Everybody who has got retirement from the material sense gratification, such a person can truly discuss, take relish in discussing about Lord Krishna. Except for a person who is basically wanting to kill his own self, spiritual suicide. Such a person won't be interested. So coming back to this particular, and there are many such verses we have just shown. Also, in beginning of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shamagopika Mataji, please continue with this. This is a famous verse.
श्रोतव्यादीनि राजेन्द्र
श्रोतव्यादीनि राजेन्द्र
नृणां सन्ति सहस्रशः
शान्ति सहस्रशः
अपश्यतामात्मतत्त्वम्
अपश्यताम् आत्मतत्त्वम्
गृहेषु गृहमेधिनाम्
गृहेषु गृहमेधिनाम्.
Translation. Those persons who are materially engrossed, being blind to the knowledge of ultimate truth, have many subject matters for hearing in human society, O Emperor. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.2.
Now, those of you who hear His Grace Namanishta Prabhuji regularly, you would know Prabhuji is very fond of this verse. Prabhuji quotes this verse many number of times. Shrotavya dini Rajendra Drunam Shanti Sahasrashaha. Sahasrashaha means thousands. So such people who are blind to the ultimate truth, who are blind to Krishna consciousness, they have got thousands of other topics apart from Lord Krishna to discuss and to hear. This is Shukadev Goswami mentioning to Rajendra, means to Parikshit Maharaj. Why they have got hundreds of thousands of topics to discuss apart from Krishna? Because apashyatam atma tattvam, because they are ignorant, they don't know about the atma tattva. Such grahamedis, those who are gross materialists, they have got hundreds of thousands of such topics to discuss apart from Krishna. And the result of discussing these topics we discuss in the earlier verses, both by the sages of Naimisharanya and this verse from Lord Brahma himself. So we will conclude our discussion by this particular verse. What happens when we attain to, or when we discuss about topics of Lord Krishna? What is the result? What is the result of discussing Kukatha? We saw in the earlier verses. So we conclude our discussion with this particular verse. Any devotee would like to recite Prabhuji's Mataji's final words for today? Hare Krishna. Dhanya Dhameshwari Mataji. Yes, ma'am.
प्रविष्टता कर्णरन्ध्रेण स्वानां भावसरोरुहम् दुनोति समलं कृष्ण कलितस्य यथा शरत्
Translation.
Translation. The sound incarnation of Lord Krishna, the supreme soul, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, enters into the heart of a self-realized devotee, sits on the lotus flower of his loving relationship, and thus cleanses the dust of material association, such as lust, anger, and hankering. Thus, it acts like autumnal rains upon pools of muddy water. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we see hearing Srimad Bhagavatam has this effect of doing away with all the anarthas in one's heart, like lust, anger, and hankering. And on the other hand, discussing about topics not related to Krishna, we will simply waste our life. So why did Maharaj Parikshit not kill Kali Purusha? Why did he spare him and simply punish him with chastisement without killing him? We will see in the subsequent section. Hare Krishna. So are there any questions, comments, thoughts, Prabhuji's, Mataji's on our discussion today? Hare Krishna, we'll open the discussion to the floor. Anyone has any questions, queries? Everybody is quite quiet today. Hare Krishna.
Yes, one point.
Yes, Prabhuji. Murli.
No, Prabhuji, I was looking at one point where the name of Kripacharya was not mentioned, but then
Srila
it
Prabhupada
was
mentions in
mentioned.
the
Yeah,
transcript. Yeah,
it was in 4, I think. 4 or
correct. So basically, what is the reference to Krupacharya being accepted by Parikshit
yeah,
Maharaj?
Saradvatam, and then it says if you go to text 3, Prabhuji, it says Saradvatam up to Krupacharya. Now, I didn't understand how this Saradvatam could be linked to Kripacharya.
Very, very nice question. Let's go back to the previous chapter where before retirement of Yudhishthir Maharaj, Bhagavatam does mention that he did entrust Parikshit Maharaj unto the care of Krupacharya for his guidance while enthroning him as the sovereign king of the entire earthly planet. So that is the reference we can understand that this particular personality that is referred to here is none other than Krupacharya, because this personality was chosen by Parikshit Maharaj's own grandfather.
Yeah. So the meaning of Saradvatam is it's not exactly Krupacharya, but one who has been interested. Yeah, reference or interest.
Reference is to Krupacharya. Hare Krishna.
Okay, it's just the reference. So it's not this.
Correct.
No,
So
Prabhuji,
that's why it's very important that we refer to the commentaries and translations by our Acharya, because some of these verses are not word to word translation, then we can't understand the real meaning. We need proper context. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Let me see. Okay, sure thing, Mataji. So we will stop here, and maybe like those of you who want to just need to answer one specific query from Dhanya Dhameshwari Mataji, and we will conclude here officially. Vamcha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, वैष्णव ठाकुर की जय, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय. हरे कृष्ण. Let me stop the recording. Mangalamai Mataji, are you able to stop the recording?
Yes, Prabhuji, I will stop it.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Hare
I have to become the host, no?
I'll make you host 1 second. Hare Krishna. I made you the host.
Yes, Prabhuji.